everybody, to the Intercontinental Hotel. We welcome you to the Academy Sports and Outdoors Orange Bowl Preview Show, also presented by Toyota, ATI Physical Therapy, and the Soup Store. Eli Gold, John Parker Wilson, and Coach Nick Saban. Good evening, sir. Great to see you, and belatedly, Merry Christmas to you.
Well, thank you, and great to see you all, and a happy holiday to everyone here and everybody listening back home, and I hope everybody has a great new year.
I certainly hope so. Let me ask you a quick question before we jump into football. Just a difference in approach, I guess. You guys worked outdoors today, but because of the heavy, heavy wind, Oklahoma moved inside. At what point do you make a decision whether it's best to work indoors or outdoors?
Well, I think it just depends on how it's going to affect practice, and, you know, it may be windy in the game.
Right.
There's no prediction right now as to how this is going to move out of here, this front or whatever here that's creating the wind. So we may have to, you know, get used to it for the game. So I don't think it affected practice really that much today. I think we got a little bit of rain, but just a sprinkle, so it worked out great.
Good. JP, jump on in, sir.
Yeah, I said the same thing of like being out there. If you're going to throw in the wind during the game, it's nice to practice it. But talk a little bit about the seniors. Their 54th career win after the Georgia game, passing last year's senior class. Pretty special to see those guys, the run they've been on, and I know they put it hard work and everything to come out and, you know, now beat another playoff game.
Well, there's a lot of people that contributed in, you know, those past, you know, 4 or 5 years and what these guys have been able to accomplish as a group. But this has been a really special group of guys. You talk about great work ethic, lots of good leaders in this group. They've set a great example for what the guys coming up behind them sort of can create as a standard. So I'm really proud of this group. You know, I wish we could keep them all for 4 years, though, you know, so we didn't have these guys going out for the draft all the time, and it'd be really fun because some of those guys that went out last year obviously had a significant impact and really are a part of this class, too, and they kind of get forgotten a little bit for what they contributed to the 54 wins, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty significant. I guess, you know, it really is pretty significant to be in 5 straight playoffs.
Only school to do it.
And to win the SEC championship. So, and those guys all, you know, had a significant part in that for sure as well.
And on top of all that, you've got 22 guys shooting up here this weekend who have already graduated, which, again, is one of the absolute top numbers in all of America.
Yep. I think if you take the total of the last 5 or 6 years, we're first in guys that played their last game with a degree. It was like 127 going into this year, and I guess that's 22 more.
Yep.
So that's 154, I think.
It is. It's remarkable. It's wonderful, and a testimony to you. Yeah, I was absent on math. Math, you know, was what I always say, 4th grade math were the 6 longest years of my life. So you have to excuse me for not helping on the ciphering there. We all know about Kyler Murray. You've talked about how spectacular the guy is. Is there one element of his game that you feel is better than all the others, as great as he is?
No, I think he is what he is because of all that he can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can say, well, guy's not really big, but he plays big. And I think he's exceptionally quick and exceptionally fast and has unbelievable speed and skill level for a guy playing the quarterback position, and leaves nothing on the table when it comes to being an accurate, very efficient, effective passer. You know, and they have some really good skill guys on their team. They've got a really good system, but almost everything in their system, even about half their passes, can also end up being quarterback runs. So there's a lot of option plays that you feel like, oh boy, well, we stopped the pass, and all of a sudden it's a quarterback draw or something. So it's a really well conceived, and it really fits his skill set really, really well. And I think that's why he's been so very productive and why they've been productive on offense. I mean, I don't know when the last time we played a team that averaged 50 points a game.
Yeah.
It's pretty
very rare.
Significant accomplishment for, you know, their offensive coaches and their team and their players to be able to be that consistent and perform at that level as they have all season long.
And it seems like they're doing it not only through the air, though, but through the rush. 41 touchdown passes, 40 on the ground. It seems like every pass in the Big 12 championship was off a play action. He made a couple checks, but how does that change the defensive scheme when they can run or throw off basically?
Well, they basically, I mean, people don't realize, but I think they have like 240 yards a game rushing or something. I mean, it's a pretty significant number, so it's great balance. Now, some of that ends up being the quarterback running too, but they can run the ball effectively. Most of their passes are play-action passes, not so much RPOs. They have a few, but most of them are play-action passes until you get to third down.
And they are averaging, you're right, 253.8, so that's 254 yards a game on the ground. You know what I found, and I don't know football the way you do, never will, but I've watched some tape, and the defense, yes, we know the statistics and where they're ranked and so on, but in their last number of games, to my uneducated eyes, they seem to be playing fairly solid defense. They're making some big plays. It does not seem like it's the same defense that really got ripped early in the season.
Well, and they are. I mean, they've been very opportunistic is the way I would say it, in terms of, like in the West Virginia game, they had 2 sack fumble pickups for touchdowns, and you know, it was really the difference in the game, and it really turned the game around. So they played, you know, really solid, especially in the second half against Texas. So they've got some good players. They've given up a lot of big plays, and they've had a lot of penalties, especially in the secondary, which has hurt them and extended drives at times. But they're very capable, and it's going to be really, really important, I think, for us to be able to execute. And you got to play your game against a team like this. You know, everybody asked me, well, why don't you try to limit the possessions, go in the bag? I mean, if you do that, then, you know, your players are not going to make the kind of plays that they're capable of making. But you can't really give these guys anything. You know, you got to go out there and execute. You can't drop balls on third down. You can't turn the ball over and give them extra possessions. You got to keep drives and control, you know, the clock a little bit, but we play fast, and we play well when we play fast, and we make explosive plays, so we don't want to take our ability to do that away. But we just really don't want to give them anything, because if you give them extra possessions, they're really going to sooner or later take advantage of it, or that's what they've been able to do all year.
SEC champions and national runner-up, Georgia Bulldogs. And we've got the defending national champion, Crimson Tide of Alabama. And it is round 2. Nick Saban aiming for another national championship, but right now thinking about an SEC title. And in rolls the #1 tie.
What a violent. They call me the great. I'm the greatest they love.
Touchdown, Judy.
When they whisper it's all hey, but our pockets are me, y'all straight. No, I ain't for none of that. I ain't none of that. I ain't none of that. I ain't for none of that. All of that wolfing can get your life taken, yeah, bro, I'm for all of that. Leave you wherever we catch you, run through your
just inside the 16, quarterback draw, Jalen Hurts, touchdown!
Yeah, we on all of that. Yeah, we for all of that. Commas on top of more commas with bands on the side of the
Last play of the game. Fromm's in trouble, can't even get a pass away. Rhodes goes to the end zone. Jump ball, incomplete, and Alabama has won it.
You're tuned in to the Academy Sports and Outdoors Orange Bowl preview show. And, Coach, you know it's Thursday night, so there's always one thing that happens every Thursday night. That's Pee-wee goes to his telephone and dials in. And he is, of course, joining us tonight as our first caller of the show, brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig. To know what's below, call 811 or visit al811.com. Pee-wee, did Santa Claus find you, sir?
He did. He was very nice to me.
Well, I'm glad. You're on with everybody here, a whole crowd, and the coach listening in, so jump right in.
So, Pee-wee, I didn't, for some reason, I just didn't think you'd find us down here.
Well, I'm visiting a buddy of mine, Coach, that lives here on the Gulf Coast of Texas.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we call you back? Let's get a better line, because I think he said he's in the Gulf Coast of Texas, but it was very unintelligible. So we'll call you back, Pee-wee, or you call us back. So he, you know, that's something, though. It's fans like Pee-wee and all the folks here and everybody. It's remarkable when you stop to think what this Alabama family and following is all about.
Well, it is, and I think the spirit that we have and the spirit that our fans have and the tradition that we have at the university and how special the university is because of that spirit is what makes it, you know, something that's a little unique about being the coach at Alabama, and I think it's unique for the players who play there because of that. And it's been, you know, really a great experience for us, but I know it's a really good experience for a lot of our players as well.
And I know you're going to deflect it, but nevertheless, let me congratulate you on winning the Walter Camp Award. You and your staff and everybody who's responsible, you've put together quite the organization, and I congratulate you on the honor.
Well, I appreciate that, but, you know, when you get these kind of awards, they're really team awards. I mean, all the players on the team who work so hard to have the success that we've been able to have so far this year and hopefully continue to have, all the coaches who have worked hard, the support staff, I mean, all the people who make it possible to, for us to create value with our players, whether it's personal development, academic support, helping them develop as football players. There's so many things that go into what we do. I think sometimes maybe people just see the end product and they don't realize all the things and all the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it happen. And, you know, these kinds of awards are really a team award for all those folks who have worked so hard as well and don't get recognized and don't get the recognition that they deserve sometimes.
Good point.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you just talked about, the culture and what it's like to be the head coach, but also now we've got players coming from all over the country. I mean, if you look at anybody, our quarterbacks from Texas and Hawaii, running backs from California, and you name it, how quickly or what is that process like, or is it just up to the upperclassmen to get those guys indoctrinated to how important it is to be here at Alabama?
Well, I think that it takes a while for the players to really understand the culture. Obviously, you know, when we recruit a guy from Alabama, it means a lot to them because they grew up with it, and just like yourself. Guys that come here, they see it from afar, they understand the tradition, they see the success, they want to be a part of it. But it doesn't take too long for them to sort of see the spirit that really makes it special. So those guys buy in and play just as hard as anybody else, and we're really excited that we're able to attract those kind of people. But we're able to attract them because of the great support that we have and all the value that we create because of the support, whether it's great facilities, great stadium, great atmosphere. All those things contribute to guys wanting to be a part of the program.
Let's talk about Lester Cotton, apparently going to start again as he did earlier this season. Tell me about his progress. You know, you always talk about the next guy up and, hey, keep working. You don't know when your opportunity might come. And here he is back in a starting role. How's he been handling that?
He's done well. He's practiced well. I think that, you know, he learned some things earlier in the season that, you know, he wasn't able to do with enough consistency for us. And I think he's made a lot of progress, and, you know, we have a lot of confidence that he can do a good job for us.
That, of course, is one of the things, and you know it, JP, the next man up theory, if you will, is it has held this program in good stead over the years.
Yeah, we've been able to do it all year and just talk about he's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, went to high school right across the street from Bryant-Denny, so we know he's going to be ready. But another next man up has been in the secondary, had an injury halfway through the season. But these guys, I don't feel have gotten the credit due because they've stepped up big time. A big question mark coming into the year, but Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney, these guys keep making plays all year long.
Well, they have done a good job, and we've lost 3 players in the secondary through the course of the year, all due to injury. Probably Trayvon Diggs, one of our most experienced, maybe best corner on our team because of the experience he had. And then D. Wright and Jalen Armour-Davis, who were both in the 2 deep. So it's made us a little thin back there. But I really like the way the players have all accepted the challenge of, you know, going out there and playing together. And I think they have a little more confidence now as a group, because when you have an inexperienced group, that's the big thing that you're concerned about is, do they play together, do they communicate, do they trust each other, especially in the secondary, especially in the offensive line. So this group has grown, you know, I think throughout the year, and their confidence has grown as well.
What's the biggest part of that? Is it playing 13 games now and you're not that raw player that you were? Or is it working against, in every single practice, against arguably one of the best offenses in America? What part of that equation is more important than the other, if either?
Well, I think they're both important. I think that, you know, when you play games and you get experience, the knowledge and experience contributes to, and you practice, you know, and what people don't realize is they think you just practice until you get it right. you got to practice until you can't get it wrong. I mean, that's basically what repetition does for guys. And then you take it to the field and you have the right habits, so it's easier to play more consistently. So, but I think that if you ask any of our players, and it's been documented by lots of players in their interviews in the NFL and all that, when they say, what was the unique thing about being an Alabama football player? Well, they talk about, well, we had a good coach, we had a good system, we had to talk about all the general stuff, but then they say the most important thing was every day in practice I had to compete against a really good player, and I was challenged every day in practice. You know, Marlon Humphrey will say, I had to cover Amari Cooper every day in practice for 3 years. And Jonathan Allen will say, I had to work against Cam Robinson every day for 3 years. One guy won the Outland Trophy, the other guy won the Nagurski. So, and Cam Robinson would say the same thing about Jonathan Allen. So they really talk about how that challenge every day in practice helped them develop as players and help them improve and understand the standard that they had to play to have success every day in practice, not just in the games. And sometimes it was a little easier in the game than it was in practice relative to who they had to play against, and that really prepared them well. So I think both of those things are important to answer your question.
Coach, we're going to take a break here for some mention some of our fine group of sponsors. I also want to mention to those of you who are here in the room, we've got a microphone set up right behind the cameras there. When we come back, we'll open that mic. If you have any questions for the coach, just wander up to that microphone and feel free to join us and be part of the show. And for those of you listening in at home, again, you're tuned in. Oh, you going to say?
Well, you know, I'm usually inspired by the crowd. And
yeah.
you all are way too quiet. You got to get a life out there.
We'll fire them up during the break as you're listening to the Academy Sports and Outdoors Orange Bowl Preview Show live from the Intercontinental Hotel in Miami. Josh Jacobs, the SEC Championship game most valuable player, 83 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win over the Georgia Bulldogs. And I love watching him. This is a guy, his heart never stops. I mean, that's all he wants to do is succeed. But watching him just bust through and carry a pile of players with him is really a treat.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, I call him a hybrid. He could do it both. I think he's going to translate really well to the next level, but whether it's running, whether it's catching, doesn't get enough credit, I think, for blocking and sometimes being a decoy. Split out, can run routes as a receiver. The catch he caught against Auburn, the over-the-shoulder, it was a beautiful throw from Tua, but the ability for him to adjust like that, that's tough for some receivers to do, much less a running back.
5'10", 216 pounds, but he has been just such a treat to watch throughout the course of the season, and he's averaging 5.5 yards per rush. He's averaging 11.4 yards per reception, and that one you talked about, that 33-yarder against the Auburn Tigers was great to see. I wonder, you know, he's playing against his hometown or his home state school. He's from Tulsa, and obviously the Sooners based in Norman. Coach, we were just talking about Josh Jacobs and the season he has had and all that he's done and the MVP of the championship game. What a treat watching that young man work so hard.
Well, I think it's even better if you really understand his story. You know, I think it's documented that he had some tough times coming up, and you know, he was a guy that really was not heavily recruited at all. I don't know if he had any offers, and we kind of were looking at him, and we were looking for a running back, and you know, we kept wondering, you know, why is nobody recruiting this guy? You know, he's really pretty good. He's got some power. He's quick. He's explosive. He's got good hands. We even went up and watched him. I don't know if it was play basketball or work out or whatever, and we were impressed with him. And you know, you just wonder in this day and age, you know, why is a guy not getting recruited? But we said, hey, we like him. He passed our evaluation. So I think he was the last guy that we took in that class. And, man, he has been a real treat in terms of how he's contributed to the program. And, you know, he's one of the best special teams players on our team as well.
Sure.
And I think everybody overlooks that. They don't ever watch who's playing special teams, who's covering kicks, who's, you know, running down on kickoff. And that kind of goes unnoticed. Everybody notices who scores the touchdowns, but they don't notice that part of it. And he's one of the best guys on our team doing that as well as a great kickoff returner.
Yes, sir. You know, we talk about dedication. Pee-wee had a bad signal on his phone call before from the Gulf Coast somewhere. He literally has driven to higher ground to get a better cell signal so he can join us on the phone. Pee-wee, where are you, sir?
Hi, I'm in Port Lavaca, Texas, which is about 30 minutes outside of Midland.
Okay, and they say Midland, Texas is beautiful this time of year. Yeah. Let's. What's on your mind, sir?
I got a two-part question, Coach. You know, first on the offensive line with the absence of Deontay, I was just wondering how is that going to affect the rotation that we have on the offensive line and the depth that we have? And secondly, everybody knows, you know, that Kyler is very, very dangerous when he breaks containment of the pocket. When your defensive rush kind of not necessarily just focuses on that, but it is a concern not to rush passes, do you give up anything on that to try to make sure that he does not break containment?
Well, I don't think that just containment is the issue. I think that keeping him in the pocket is an issue. I think he is a good scrambler as well as a good runner. I think if you can keep him in the pocket, make him step up in the pocket, that's the best way to do it. Their offensive line is very, very good. You know, they have a very good offensive line, 2 really good tackles. So I think you have to kind of mix it up. And I don't think it's realistic to think that he's not going to be who he is in terms of, you know, how he moves around, how he extends plays. And he extends a lot of plays, not just to run now. He extends plays to keeps his eyes down the field and makes a lot of explosive plays off of scrambles. And, you know, this guy is, you know, I mean, it's hard to tell defensive linemen that they have to play a guy that has the skill level of probably Jalen Waddle, you know, to relate to someone on our team. If Jalen Waddle could go play quarterback every day, that would be the kind of athlete we're talking about. So we have to do some different things. You know, you got to try to spy him, mirror him. Sometimes you do that, and the spy guy can't get him on the ground. So it's something that we just have to do a really good job of. Everybody's aware of the situation. They know who we're playing. They got to do the best job they can to try to contain him. And you know, he's a very good passer too. So to say we'll just make him pass the ball in the pocket, and they're very good on the blitz. You know, they recognize man-to-man coverage. They throw a lot of crossing pick routes. You know, I think he completes like 71% of his passes when you try to pressure him. So everybody says, you know, Terry's answer is, well, just pressure him, just blitz, as if every time you blitz, you're going to knock the guy down. But you know, when you're playing man-to-man and they pick you running across the field, yeah, that's a problem too. But again, that's just, you know, that's
the guy's good.
The guy's
good.
He won the Heisman Trophy. You know what really got me the other day was when I got asked in the press conference, who's going to simulate him in practice?
Right.
I said, well, if we had somebody simulate him in practice, we'd play him.
We'd be playing, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Not that you got chopped liver under center on your ball club, whether it's Tua or Jalen or whomever.
Yeah, we're happy with those guys too.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I've noticed is not only his ability to escape out of the pocket, but also sit in the pocket for extended period of time. What do you tell your secondary when they do the scramble drill or break away and cut? I mean, these guys have been having cover for a long time.
See, I think that's what some people have done is we call mush rush, you know, where they just sort of try to push the pocket, keep the guy in front, and then he just stands there all day. And you got these guys running all these scramble drills, you know, the receivers who are taught to do things after the pattern breaks down. And you got to teach the defensive players, you know, to finish the play, stay with the play, stay with their guy. The hardest thing about, to me, scrambling quarterbacks is when you play zone. All right, you have to turn it into zone man-to-man, and when people start running all over the place, sometimes you turn people loose. When you play man-to-man, at least everybody knows who their guy is, and if they can stay on their guy, you got a chance. It's easier to match patterns. And if you play pattern match man, which we do sometimes, once you get that match, you got to stay with them. But when you're staying with the man-to-man, there's also more room for him to take off running. So this is a difficult, you know, when you play these kind of quarterbacks, it's difficult to, A, get them all covered, B, you got them all covered, and you got to cover him.
Yeah.
So they're playing with 11 guys every play. So it's just one of those types of guys, and it's challenging, and you know, our players have sort of embraced a challenge to go play against a great player and see what they can do to try to, you know, contain them.
And as we mentioned before, if you folks have a question for the coach, the microphone is right there waiting for you, so feel free to step up and throw your question in our direction. We were talking earlier, Coach, about surprises, and I'm not going to ask you to categorize anybody as a surprise. But John Parker and I didn't necessarily know going into the Louisville game that we'd be talking about Quinnen Williams as an All-American and an Outland Trophy winner. From a fan standpoint, there have been some pleasant surprises, if I might use that word, as to how some of these guys have developed this year.
Well, and I think Quentin was always, we thought he would always be a good player. I think there's another guy that was not heavily recruited from Birmingham. You know, just had a couple offers. He was a little undersized, very athletic, played hard. But I think now you just see the finished product. You know, here's a guy that's a really hard worker. Man, he is, you know, pays attention to detail. He's very focused on what he tries to do in all parts of his life, but in his development as a football player. And because he is that way, I think he's made a tremendous amount of progress in getting bigger, stronger, very, very smart player, very instinctive. And he's played really, really well for us. But I saw it start to happen last spring when we were in spring practice that, hey, this guy's making a lot of plays and he's really coming into his own. And I think that confidence sort of helps him as well. But he has had a great year for us.
Coach, why don't we take a question? I believe we've got some folks gathering at the microphone here at the Intercontinental Hotel in Miami. So why don't we go to our first young questioner here this evening. Hello. She doesn't want to say hello, but Daddy will grab the microphone.
She sure is cute.
She
I can
is.
tell you that.
Definitely not Daddy, but this is Allie. Allie, come here for a second. You just stand here. I'll ask the question. She wants to know if Coach Saban can tell us who's going to win the football game. Isn't that right?
I wish I knew. I can promise you this, Allie. We'll do everything that we can, and we have been doing everything that we can ever since we started practice, and we've had 11 practices now to try to get our players ready to go out there and play their very, very best. And I think when you play in games like this, you really have to stay focused on what's in front of you and play one play at a time. I don't think we did that very well in the Georgia game. We were a little bit anxious. We made some mistakes. You know, we didn't play well, especially in the first half. So hopefully we can get our players to look at this more like, hey, it's a 14th game. It's going to be like a heavyweight fight. They're going to throw some punches. We're going to throw some punches. How you take the punches and how you keep punching is going to be the key to who wins the game, and that's what we're going to try to get our players to do.
Allie, thank you for your question, young lady. I'll tell you, it's I was on a talk show in Hawaii. I think I told you this, John Parker. I was on a talk show in Hawaii a few weeks ago, and the guy said, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Devontae Smith, you got Henry Ruggs, you got Shavers, you got Waddle, you got all of these guys. He goes, it's an embarrassment of riches. I said, no. I said, nobody's embarrassed, not at all, but it's nice when you have that kind of a selection to throw to.
I wouldn't be embarrassed at all if I was throwing to that. And then not to mention Irv Smith, who I kind of count as a receiver also. Man, that guy's he's fun to watch play. And the thing that I've loved also this year is Mike Locksley being able to spread the ball around to these guys, because it seems like he's got a unique game plan every week. He's not coming in and trying to force what he thinks should be run. He's just going with the game. I think he's done a phenomenal job this year, calling the plays, spreading the ball around, and keeping it fresh for those guys.
Indeed so, as you're joining us now on the Academy Sports and Outdoors Orange Bowl preview show, presented by Toyota, ATI Physical Therapy, and the Soup Store. You know, Mike Locksley, the ongoing list of coaches who've moved on elsewhere or will be after the playoffs. Wish him the very, very best. That Maryland job has been a dream job for him.
Yeah, I wish he was staying, but
yes, definitely.
But next man up at the offensive coordinator position also, right? So able to fill that, and you know, glad he's been here for multiple years, and that's nice to see, of just somebody who's really embraced Jalen and Tua, and you know, I like watching him. His press box is right next to ours.
Yeah.
He's just this calm, smooth operator throughout the game, and I know it really affects and rubs off on the offense also.
And we're just talking about Mike Locksley, Coach, and I know how proud you are that he is moving on. And he is, as JP was saying, he sits right next to us, although separated by glass, into the coach's booth. You can look at him. You don't know if you're winning, losing, or drawing. I mean, he's just calm and collected and calls the right play.
Well, he's done a really, really good job with our players. He's a really good play caller on game day. You know, there's a couple things. You know, there's guys that have a really good ability to teach, but sometimes they don't have a really good ability to apply it in the game. And, you know, Mike has both, and the players really respond well to him. And I think this is a great example of a guy whose career was sort of on the rocks a little bit. He had a tough time in a couple of the jobs that he had, and, you know, came here as an intern for a year, made him a receiver coach for a year. He's a coordinator now, and, you know, just really, really did an outstanding job for us this year. And I think sometimes I get a little criticized for, you know, it's not my heart or my philosophy, all right, to when people make mistakes, not to try to help them, whether it's a player, a coach, or whoever, all right? And, you know, just because people have made mistakes at other places, you know, we have players on our team who make mistakes. And, you know, I'm not one of these, you know, punitive punishment type people who just punish the guy and, you know, get rid of him and suspend him for games. And what did you do to help the guy? What did you do to help him so he's going to have a better chance to be successful in his future? So we try to do a lot of things to help people. Some people call it rehabilitation. Some people call it counseling. And we do the same thing with coaches who have shown, you know, a capacity to have great assets in terms of what they have accomplished and what they've done, and maybe they make a mistake somewhere along the way, and we give them an opportunity, and it's worked out great for us, and in most cases it's worked out really well for them. So, you know, there has been some criticism in the past when I do things like that, but I just want everybody to understand why we do it. Maybe they can learn a better way to do it so they can go be more successful the next time they get an opportunity.
You know, there's a saying, that's a great point, and sometimes you just have to understand what you're dealing with, because I know in the broadcasting industry there's a saying, those who can do and those who can't criticize. So I'm sure you get a lot of that. You know, folks criticize because they can't do it themselves, and you look through all that and you find the right guy for the right job.
I'm not mentioning any names, but somebody sure did come to mind right quick when you said that. I think maybe everybody can figure it out there.
Maybe the gentleman at the microphone can figure it out. Welcome into the show. How are you, young man?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's your question for the coach?
What's been your favorite game to coach in your career?
Favorite game to coach in my career?
Good question. That's a good question.
That's a hard question because, you know, I think every game has its challenges, and I think when you're a coach, you're just like a player, you're a competitor, you're always looking for the next challenge. You know, the next game is the most important game. So the game that I'm probably looking forward to the most is this game, because you don't know what's going to happen. You work hard to try to prepare and get the guys to be able to go out there and execute and play well so they have a chance to be successful, create value for themselves and for the team. But you never know if it's going to happen that way. So I don't think that I can look back and say there was a favorite game. I know that I have memories from games because there were lessons that I learned, you know, from games in terms of mistakes that I made, or maybe things that I did that I thought were mistakes that turned out to be really things that were an inspiration to someone. So I can't really specifically say, you know, I always tell the story about, you know, the game that when we went to Michigan when I was an assistant at Ohio State and we were supposed to lose the game by 17 points, and Woody Hayes came and talked to the team about overcoming adversity and how this was a great opportunity because it was a challenge and it turns everybody's mindset from negative to positive as if it was an opportunity to overcome adversity, and we ended up winning the game. I always remember games like that. You know, I remember the state championship game when I was in high school, and it was pouring down the rain and it was a muddy field and we were supposed to win the game by a lot, but the conditions were so bad we just barely won. And I remember that team, and I remember every championship team and every championship game that we've had, you know, since we've been here, because those are special groups of people who did special things to accomplish something that is really unique and much harder to accomplish than people sometimes think. So, but a specific game, probably the next game. You know, because I always say, so what's next? And that's how you kind of got to look at it if you're in this business. You know, people keep asking questions, like I got asked a question today about, you know, how, we always tell the team, you know, it's like the season is like climbing a mountain. But everybody looks at it like, okay, once you climb the mountain, like you're done. But really, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. But next year, the boulder's at the bottom of the hill again. All right, so you have to push it up again. All right, and that's what you have to do each and every year, because success is not a continuum, it's momentary, and it's always under construction, so you're always kind of working to try to accomplish the next thing. So I can't say there was a game that I enjoyed coaching the most. I enjoyed winning an SEC championship game a few weeks ago. Really enjoyed the way our players were able to come back in the game after being behind 14 points in the game. But there's not really a best game. There's lessons that I learned in lots of games, and I'm always looking forward to the next game.
Hey, Coach, we've got a guy here standing back there because we're used to seeing him on the sideline. So he's got a microphone in his hand back there. Rashad Johnson, who, of course, is our sideline reporter and working with you as an intern. How has he been in learning this coaching business? I'm being very serious. He's a wonderful young man. I know he was with the Giants in the offseason for a bit. Now under you, is he like a sponge learning it all?
I don't know. I'm trying to get something out of him. I'm trying to get some ideas out of him. He's got lots of good experience with lots of good coaches. I want to know what he knows sometimes. You know, I kind of already know what I know. I'm looking for a better way.
I tell you, he's been spectacular on the air. He really has. He's been a wonderful addition to our network along with John Parker. You've prepared for big games, Rashad, both collegiately and professionally. What is a player thinking now, a couple of days away from a national semifinal?
Well, right now, you know, the preparation goes from physical, you know, to the mental state. You know, we still have 48 hours until kickoff. So those guys right now, you know, the most important thing is to rest your body and just to take the plays and play them in your head. That's what I used to do. The night before, I used to visualize, you know, the calls, the motions that I was going to get, go through my checks and make sure that it wasn't, you know, my first time making that check when I got there out there on the field. So, I mean, right now, it's all mental opportunity just to relax, get in a calm state, and just go out, you know, and do what you've been doing all week.
And, Coach, do all these guys prepare differently individually? Do they know what's best for them, or do you as coaches say, hey, you might want to try this, you might want to visualize that? How does that work?
Well, we try to teach players how to prepare for a game. Some guys actually do it a lot better than others.
Okay.
We make assignments. I know that when Rashad played, he had to do the motion reel. You know, I make somebody do the motion reel. That means every time somebody goes in motion, you have to chart, because a lot of times the offensive play caller will call the same plays with the same motion. So he'll call, you know, slot right, Zach, and then he'll call the same play every time, because he gets in the habit of calling that. So I used to make him chart and make somebody chart the motion reel, all right, and they have to give a motion report. Well, this is really helping a player sort of learn how to get ready for a game.
Mental repetitions.
Yeah, like we have Quentin Williams do what we call bird and rabbits. If anybody is given away by stance or anything, whether it's pass, run, or they're pulling, he's responsible to give a report on that, you know, every week. So we've taught him how to do that when he's a freshman, and now he gives some, you know, pretty good reports, even sometimes things that we don't see as coaches that they do. But Rashad was one of the best at it because he's bright. He's going to be a great coach. And we're looking forward to him making a great contribution to our program.
Well, like I said, he's done a wonderful job on our broadcast, and it's been his input from the sideline has been wonderful. John Parker, why don't you jump in with another thought for the coach here?
So continue with the preparation. How do you take what you learned from the Georgia game and apply it to this? Because there were some things that we didn't see, especially momentum of the game and having to score 14 points in the fourth quarter. How do you take that and teach those kids, okay, this could happen again, or new situations that could arise?
Well, I really think that a lot of it was we had a different mindset in the Georgia game. And I think sometimes players get too concerned about outcomes, and those outcomes create a lot of what I call clutter, and you start thinking about the wrong thing. You know, we always talk about, you've heard me talk about this 1,000 times, don't look at the scoreboard, play the next play. All right, do what you have to do on what's right in front of you. Well, when you start worrying about what the score is going to be, or whether we're going to win the championship, or whether we're not going to win, I mean, now you're thinking about all the wrong things. You're not really thinking about what's happening in the next play. All right, and then you're more prone to make mistakes because you're pressing, and it creates a lot of anxiety. which is not really good for positive performance. But if you took the mindset that we had when we played LSU and you compared it to the mindset we had when we had a Georgia game, it's completely different, all right? And we're trying to create the same mindset as coaches, but sometimes you don't get it done. And because there's a lot of things that are being talked about that these guys hear, whether it's on ESPN, and, you know, it's really hard to hear that you're supposed to win a game no matter what. Like, why are we even playing? And then you got to go out there and play. You got to play your heart out. I mean, you got to play hard every play. I mean, it's like I mentioned before, it's like a heavyweight fight, man. They hit you, it hurts. All right, how do you take that punch and how you keep coming back and how you keep punching until you can knock that guy out? That's hard. It's not easy, and you can't listen to all the stuff you hear on TV all the time and what people say about you all the time, or even talking about winning a Heisman Trophy. That's the last thing you need to be thinking about if you're out there playing down in and down out, because you're not going to execute very well if that's what you're thinking about. If you're thinking about that play, what is my key on that play, where do I throw the ball, who do I throw it to, then you're not trying to make plays, you're trying to execute, and the plays will come to you. So you're asking what we can learn? I hope we can learn something about mindset, about going into a game and being focused on what's in front of you. That's the next play, not worried about the outcome.
Is it tougher down here in this bowl-like setting, being down here for a week earlier, than it would be playing LSU, where you got to go to class on Friday and then the next day you go to the game?
Well, I like it better when we're in a routine, but you know, it is what it is. And your ability to adapt and focus and have deliberate practice, all right, when you go to practice and you're focused on doing things, you know, the way you need to do them to get ready to play the game, and then can you convert now to what Rashad said, and all right, we're not going to practice anymore, we're going to have a walkthrough tomorrow, all right, but you have plenty of opportunity to have mental practice. You know, there was a study done, guy shot foul shots with a ball, another guy shot foul shots without a ball, just mentally did it. They almost improved the same amount.
Interesting.
So you can, you know, get ready and eliminate a lot of mental errors that you might make by visualizing what you have to do and going over the mental part of the game, all right, which is very, very important.
We're coming right back. We'll have more from the coach, so don't you go away as you're listening to the Academy Sports and Outdoors Orange Bowl Preview Show live from the Intercontinental Hotel here in Miami.
I mean, we haven't even talked about it, but the way we came back, and like Coach Saban said, able to score 14 points in the second half and really, or the fourth quarter, and really changed the game. I mean, it was a different game when the team went into halftime, and I was worried that the defense was out on the field so much more than the offense was, and just dug down deep to really get a hard-fought win.
And it was great to see him get a nice standing ovation at graduation the other day, too. That doesn't happen very often.
No, and you know, I think just it's nice to see him being recognized for what he's mean to this program, the kind of teammate he's been, the leader he's been, to be the starter and then to come back. Look, that doesn't happen unless you're doing things right during the week, working like you're supposed to. It just you don't come in the second half and win the game.
Coach is joining us now for what's going to be his final word of the evening. And just like our regular show throughout the course of the season, Coach Saban's final word is presented by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Yeah, well, you know, I just want everybody out there to know how much we appreciate all the support that you've given this team this year. This has been a great group to coach. It's great that they put themselves in a position to have an opportunity to accomplish something that's really, really special, I think, when you get to this point, whether you're in the playoffs or whether you're playing in a championship game. So I know that we've had tremendous support this year. People have really, really been positive in the way that they've affected our team. This team has had to overcome a lot of adversity throughout the course of the year. We've had a lot of players step up and play well for us, and I'm really, really proud of what they've been able to accomplish. And more than anything else, I want to see them finish the way we'd love to see them finish and the way they want to finish, and that's by helping them in every way go out and play this game as physical as possible with great focus on execution so that they're looking what's in front of them so they can play one play at a time for 60 minutes in a game. Like each play has a history and a life of its own, and they can do it together as a group. And I would really, really hate for this to be the last game for this team, so everybody just support this team as you have all year long, and we love it and appreciate it.
Definitely,
Thank you so much.
and if there is another game, Coach, we'll be together again a couple of nights prior to kickoff, but thank you as always for your time.
Yeah, great. Thank you, guys. You've done a great job all year.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Nick Saban joining us here at the Intercontinental Hotel here in Miami, and I'll tell you, the preparation, Oklahoma, obviously a very, very good team. That's, you know, it's an interesting story. You look at their numbers, and you can't take numbers into account because they're in this ball game.
They are. I mean, and they're going to score points. Look, they're first in the Big 12, first in the country right now, scoring almost 50 points a game. So they're here for a reason. Got a good quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, throw it to a lot of different people. They've got a fullback that they throw it to in the red zone too. So there's a lot of different ways this team could beat you. And like Coach said, you got to be ready for it.
So tell me about your year. You've got 55 seconds to discuss that. How have you liked the transition of the broadcast booth instead of lining up in the huddle and all?
Well, I can promise you, when I was lining up the huddle, I never knew I'd be up there with you. But it's been such a fun year for me. Grew up an Alabama fan, so listened to you and Kenny when I was a little kid, watching the games like many people do. We turn the TV down and the radio up. So it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to sit up here with you, call the games. You've been
a lot of fun.
Tremendous help to me all year. Hopefully they'll invite me next year because it's just been truly fantastic.